Have you ever felt like your prayers don't reach the ceiling, that the words go up, but nothing comes down? Today, we're going to discover together what Jesus really said about the power of prayer, that secret that few dare to apply, but which has the potential to completely transform your spiritual life. Jesus didn't just teach about prayer. He lived it so intensely, so deeply, that even his disciples were intrigued. They saw something different in him, a connection, an intimacy with the Father that generated supernatural results. And you know what's even more impressive? He didn't keep this secret to himself. Throughout this video, you will understand why some prayers seem to touch God's heart while others fall on deaf ears. You will discover what truly moves heaven, what Jesus did when he prayed alone, and how you can apply these biblical teachings about prayer to your life right now. Prepare your heart, because what you are about to discover may change the way you relate to God forever. And no, it's not about praying louder, more beautifully, or with difficult words. It's about something much deeper and much more powerful. There are nights when loneliness weighs heavily. You kneel, close your eyes, and begin to speak to God. The words come out of your mouth, but it seems like no one is listening on the other end. Silence answers. And then comes that question that gnaws at you from within. Does God really listen to me? Millions of people around the world have already gone through this. They prayed fervently, with tears, with despair, and nothing. The sky seems made of bronze. The answer doesn't come. And the worst part is, we start to think that the problem is within us, that we are not worthy enough, that our faith is too weak. But what if I told you that this silence could be the beginning of something much greater, that sometimes God is not absent, but simply waiting for you to discover the true power of prayer? Jesus himself went through moments of profound silence. In Gethsemane, he cried out with such intensity that his sweat became like drops of blood. And at that moment, the heavens also seemed silent. God's silence in prayer is not abandonment. It's an invitation to go deeper, to seek not just answers, but transformation. Because when you understand this, when you stop demanding and begin to surrender, everything changes. The question isn't whether God is listening. The question is, are you ready to hear what he has to say? Because what comes next will show you that the problem was never God. It was always the way we approached him. There was a man who prayed every day. Same words, same posture, same routine. He would wake up early, kneel beside his bed, and recited the phrases he had memorized since childhood. Lord, bless my family, my work, my health. Done. Duty fulfilled. But deep down, very deep down, he knew it wasn't making any difference. One day, something happened. He lost his job, his wife fell ill, his children distanced themselves, and suddenly, those memorized words no longer made sense. He tried to pray the same way, but his voice faltered, because now it wasn't about ritual anymore. It was about survival. It was about real despair. How often do we turn prayer into a formula? We repeat verses, use beautiful expressions, try to impress, but we forget that on the other side is a Father who doesn't want performance. He wants heart. Prayer and spiritual purpose cannot be separated. When you pray without feeling, without truly connecting, you are just talking to yourself. Jesus perceived this in the religious people of his time. They prayed aloud on street corners, offered long prayers in temples, but it was all empty. It was spiritual theater. And that is precisely why Jesus said in Matthew 6:6, "When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen." Do you see the difference? Jesus wasn't interested in pretty words. He was interested in true intimacy, in a relationship with God through prayer that was real, authentic, and transformative. And that only happens when we take off the mask and present ourselves as we truly are, broken, imperfect, and in need of him. That man from the story? He finally understood. He stopped reciting. He began to cry. And it was there, in that moment of total surrender, that something began to move. But the secret of it all, it's yet to be revealed. Jesus had a habit that intrigued everyone. In the early morning, when the world was still asleep, he would withdraw. He would go up the mountain. He would seek out deserted places. And there, alone with the Father, he would pray, not for minutes, for hours, sometimes the entire night. The disciples would wake up and not find him. Where was he? In the secret place. And this generated a spiritual hunger in them, because they saw the results. They saw Jesus performing miracles, casting out demons, raising the dead. They saw an authority that no one else had. And they knew that the source of all this was in those moments of intimacy with God. That is why one day they asked, "Lord, teach us to pray." Jesus didn't give them a magic formula. He revealed a principle. When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who like to pray, standing in the synagogues and on the street corners, to be seen by others. They have already received their reward. The secret of prayer, according to Jesus, wasn't eloquence. It was sincerity, in privacy, in total surrender. He taught the Lord's Prayer right after, but pay attention. That prayer wasn't meant to be memorized and repeated mechanically. It was a model of how to draw closer to God, recognizing His holiness, seeking His will above our own, depending on Him for our daily bread, asking for forgiveness and forgiving, acknowledging our fragility in the face of evil. How did Jesus pray? With His heart laid bare, without masks, without games. He spoke to the Father as one speaks to someone one knows deeply. And this intimacy generated power. It generated miracles. It generated transformation. Jesus and the secret of intimacy with God cannot be separated. One depended on the other. The question remains, are you willing to step off the stage and into your room? Because it is there, away from the spotlight, that the true power of prayer unfolds. Before we continue, I want to take a quick break. If you're enjoying this content and want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This really helps me understand that I'm on the right track and motivates me to continue bringing messages that truly make a difference. Now, let's get back to it. There is a scene in Scripture that reveals something powerful about prayer. Jesus is in Gethsemane. The crucifixion is approaching. He knows what lies ahead. And there alone, he prays. It is not a formal prayer. It is a desperate cry. "Father, if it is possible, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Notice the brutal honesty of this prayer. Jesus doesn't hide his human desire to avoid suffering. He exposes his anguish, his fear, his pain, but in the end he submits. And it is precisely this combination, total honesty with complete surrender, that moves the heart of God. The prayer that moves God's heart is not one full of elaborate words. It is not one that tries to convince God to change his mind. It is one that says, "Lord, I trust in you even when I don't understand. I surrender myself even when it hurts. May your will be done because I know it is perfect." The power of a sincere cry lies precisely in this surrender. God is not looking for people who have all the answers. He seeks broken hearts, willing to trust in him above all circumstances. As it is written in Psalm 51:17, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." When you pray with that kind of heart, something changes. Not necessarily the circumstances, although that can happen, but primarily you. Because powerful prayer, according to the Bible, isn't about manipulating God. It's about being molded by Him. It's about aligning your heart with His heart. And here's the most profound part. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't receiving what you asked for. It's discovering that you didn't even need it, that what God had in store was infinitely better. But to understand this, you need to know a story that Jesus told. Jesus was teaching about prayer when he decided to tell a parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray. The setting is the same, the purpose apparently too, but the heart completely different. And it was this detail that changed everything. The first man was a Pharisee, religious, knowledgeable in the scriptures. He positioned himself prominently and began to pray. God, I thank you that I am not like other men, thieves, corrupt, adulterers, not even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I earn. He listed his virtues. He extolled his deeds, and he thought God would be impressed. The second man was a publican, a tax collector, considered a traitor by the people. He stood at a distance, not even daring to lift his eyes to heaven. He beat his chest and said only, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Nothing more. No justification, no list of good deeds, just a broken heart before God. And then Jesus drops the bombshell. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. Wait, the perfect religious person was rejected, and the confessed sinner was accepted. Exactly. Because the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector isn't about who is morally superior. It's about who recognizes their true condition before God. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. The Pharisee didn't need God, or at least he thought he didn't. He was content with himself, but the tax collector knew that without divine mercy, he was lost. And it was this awareness that opened the door to heaven for him. How often do we pray like the Pharisee, recalling our good deeds as if God owed us something, comparing ourselves to others, thinking we are better? But Jesus' teachings on prayer make it clear. It's not about what you do. It's about what you recognize you need. Prayer and inner transformation begin when the mask falls and the truth appears. And it is precisely this humility that prepares the ground for something that many say is impossible. But is it really? If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. These words of Jesus in Matthew 17:20 sound almost absurd, don't they? A mustard seed is tiny, invisible, and yet Jesus says that with faith of that size, mountains move. But here's the secret that many miss. Jesus isn't talking about the size of faith. He's talking about the direction of faith. Because it doesn't matter how great your faith is if it's placed in the wrong place. You can have gigantic faith in yourself, in your abilities, in your resources, but that doesn't move anything in the spiritual realm. The true power of faith lies in placing it in the one who can truly move mountains, God. That's why Jesus always connected faith with trust in the Father. It wasn't self-confidence, it was God trust. When you pray with that faith, even if it seems small, you are activating God's unlimited power. Think about it. A single mustard seed doesn't move a mountain on its own, but when planted, it grows, develops, and becomes something big. Faith works like that. It starts small, but when it's directed towards God, it grows. And with it, possibilities grow. How do you pray with faith? By recognizing that you don't have control, but you know who does. Unwavering faith in prayer doesn't mean the absence of doubt. It means choosing to trust despite doubts. It's saying, Lord, I don't know how, but I know you can. It's the widow who brought her 2 small coins. It's the father who cried out, I believe, help my unbelief. It's choosing to take the step even when the ground seems uncertain. But there's a detail that needs to be said. Sometimes you take the step, plant the seed of faith, and the heavens remain silent. What to do when the answer doesn't come? She prayed every day for her daughter's healing, for the restoration of her marriage, for financial provision. And every day, the answer was the same. Nothing. Months passed, years passed, and that faith that was once strong began to waver. Has God forgotten me? The silence of God is one of the most painful experiences in the spiritual life, because when you cry out and hear no answer, you begin to question everything. You question your faith. You question your worth. You even question whether God is really there. And the weight of that doubt can be overwhelming. But here's a truth that few talk about. Even Jesus faced this silence. In Gethsemane, he prayed 3 times, asking that the cup of suffering pass from him. 3 times, and the Father's response was silence. There was no audible voice. There was no comforting angel in that first moment, only the harsh reality that the cross remained. Praying when all seems lost is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you still believe there is a God capable of changing things, even when everything indicates otherwise. And you know what's incredible? After Gethsemane, an angel appeared to strengthen Jesus. The answer wasn't what he asked for, but the strengthening came. Sometimes God doesn't remove the mountain. He gives you the strength to climb it. He doesn't change the circumstances immediately. He changes you first. Because the goal of prayer that touches the impossible isn't always to alter external reality. It's to prepare you to cross it with faith, with purpose, with the certainty that He is with you. And that's exactly where something revolutionary comes in. What if the answer you're looking for doesn't come in the way you imagined? What if God is answering in a completely different way? There was a man in the Bible named Paul. He had a thorn in the flesh, something that deeply afflicted him. 3 times he cried out to God asking that it be removed. 3 times. And do you know what the answer was? My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. That wasn't what Paul expected to hear. He wanted deliverance. He received support. He wanted removal. He received sufficient grace to endure. And you know what's fascinating? Paul accepted it. More than that, he declared that he would glory in his weaknesses so that the power of Christ might rest upon him. Sometimes heaven surprises us with a no that seems cruel, but is actually the greatest act of love, because God sees the whole picture while we only see a part. He knows that what we ask for might even harm us, and what He denies might be saving us from something devastating. Think of the mother who denies her child candy before lunch. The child cries, feeling unloved, but the mother knows that candy will spoil the meal. Fathers act this way with us. The no is often disguised protection, necessary redirection, preparation for something bigger. When God answers prayer in an unexpected way, it's not because He didn't hear, it's because He saw beyond. And when you stop fighting against that different answer and begin to trust the process, something extraordinary happens. Prayer and inner transformation go hand in hand. True change doesn't always happen out there. It happens inside, in the heart, in the way we see things. And when you surrender to this truth, when you accept that His plan is the best, not yours, entire destinies begin to change. Not in the way you imagined, but in an infinitely better way. Hannah was barren. In a culture where having children defined a woman's worth, she was despised, humiliated, and broken. Year after year, she went to the temple and wept before God. She cried out with such intensity that the priest Eli thought she was drunk. But Hannah wasn't drunk on wine. She was overflowing with a mixture of pain and faith. And then she did something radical. She made a vow, Lord, if you give me a son, I will dedicate him to you all the days of his life. She wasn't bargaining. She was surrendering. She was saying, it's not about me, it's about your purpose. And God answered. Hannah had Samuel, who became one of the greatest prophets of Israel, a son who changed the destiny of an entire nation. The prayer that changes destinies isn't one focused solely on our needs. It's one aligned with God's purpose, because when you pray, asking for something but offer everything in return, you're demonstrating that you understand the game. It's not about having, it's about being used by God for something greater than yourself. Daniel prayed 3 times a day, even knowing he could be thrown into the lion's den for it. He didn't stop praying because he knew his connection with God was more important than his safety. And what happened? He was thrown to the lions, but God shut their mouths. Daniel's destiny wasn't to die in that den. It was to witness God's power before an entire empire. Prayer that transforms lives isn't magic, it's persistence, it's faithfulness, it's continuing to seek God even when nothing changes. Because what you don't see is that while you pray, God is working behind the scenes, preparing things your eyes cannot yet see. The power of prayer lies precisely in this blind trust that He is in control. And when you live like that, when your life becomes a life of constant prayer, something changes, not just in your circumstances, but in you. And that inner change is the true miracle. Jesus had a routine. Before any major decision, He would withdraw to pray. Before choosing the 12 disciples, He spent the entire night in prayer. Before feeding the multitudes, He prayed. Before raising Lazarus from the dead, He prayed. It wasn't ritual, it was intimacy. It was a deep connection with the Father, and it is precisely this intimacy that most people lose. We treat God like an order taker. We call when we need something, we hang up when we receive it. But a relationship with God through prayer doesn't work like that. A relationship requires time. It requires presence. It requires constant conversation, not just in moments of despair. Think about any close relationship you have, with a friend, with a spouse, with someone you love. If you only talk to that person when you need something, that's not a relationship, it's self-interest. And God doesn't want to be treated like a problem-solving machine. He wants to be your Father, your friend, your refuge. Jesus and the secret of intimacy with God reveals something beautiful. Prayer is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. It's not just you talking, it's you talking, listening, waiting, feeling. It is in silence that you hear the gentle voice of God. It is in stillness that He whispers directions, comfort, corrections. Many people complain that God doesn't speak. But do we take enough time to listen? In the midst of our long lists of requests, do we give Him space to answer? Intimacy isn't about the quantity of words, it's about the quality of presence. It's about being there, available, vulnerable before Him. And when you discover that intimacy, when you stop chasing miracles and start chasing God, miracles come as a consequence. Because the greatest miracle is not what God does for you, it's what He does in you. And that only happens when you allow Him to enter the deepest part of your being. So we arrive at the crucial point, the secret that Jesus revealed about prayer, the secret that few dare to apply. And perhaps you are expecting a magic formula, 3 infallible steps, a revolutionary technique. But the truth is much simpler and much more difficult. The secret isn't how to pray, it's why to pray. It's not about changing God. It's about being changed by Him. It's not about convincing Him of what you want. It's about discovering what He wants for you. And when you understand that, when your prayer stops being a list of demands and becomes an act of surrender, everything changes. Most people pray for God to fit into their plans. But the secrets of prayer, according to Jesus, show us the opposite. Pray to fit into God's plans. Because His plans are infinitely greater, wiser, and more perfect than anything you can imagine. Is that scary? Yes. Because it means letting go of control. It means trusting blindly. It means saying, Lord, I don't know where this is going, but I know that You know, and I trust in You. That's the level of faith that moves mountains, not because you are strong, but because you are connected to the Almighty. Prayer and spiritual purpose meet at this point. When you pray not to satisfy your desires, but to fulfill God's purpose in your life, you enter another spiritual dimension. A dimension where the impossible becomes possible, where the supernatural invades the natural, where miracles cease to be the exception and become the consequence of a life aligned with God. Few apply this because it is costly. It requires dying to oneself. It requires giving up what you want to embrace what He wants. But those who dare to do so discover something that no external miracle can provide: peace, purpose, fulfillment, and a life that is truly worth living. There is a moment recorded in John 17. Jesus is about to be arrested, judged, crucified, and there, in His last hours of freedom, He prays. But He doesn't pray for Himself. He prays for the disciples. He prays for you, for me, for all who would believe in him through the message of the apostles. He says, Father, that they may all be one, just as you are in me and I in you, so that the world may believe that you sent me. Jesus wasn't asking for organizational unity. He was asking for spiritual intimacy, a connection so profound between the human and the divine that the world would see and believe. And that is precisely what prayer is, the bridge between man and the eternal. It is not a religious ritual. It is not a spiritual obligation. It is the meeting point where the finite touches the infinite, where the temporal connects with the eternal, where you, with all your limitations, have direct access to the creator of the universe. The power of sincere prayer lies in recognizing this. You are not speaking to an impersonal cosmic force. You are speaking to a Father who knows you, loves you, and desires to have communion with you. How to live a life of prayer? By living consciously, knowing that every moment can be a moment of connection with him. It's not just about praying in the early morning or before bed. It's about walking in constant prayer. It's about talking to God while you work, while you drive, while you live. It's about having a continuous awareness that he is there, by your side, within you, listening to every thought, every sigh, every tear. Prayer is not a request. It is the place where the human touches the divine. It is the sacred space where transformations happen, destinies are shaped, and lives are redefined. And the question that remains is, will you continue to treat prayer like a shopping list? Or will you dare to enter into that profound intimacy that Jesus lived and taught? If you've made it this far, you've already realized prayer isn't about technique. It's about the heart. It's not about what you say. It's about who you are when you draw near to God. And perhaps now you're wondering, how do I begin? The answer is simple, with brutal honesty. Stop trying to impress God. Take off the mask. Show your wounds. Confess your doubts, because it is in vulnerability that true connection happens. I want to invite you to do something. When this video ends, take a few minutes, not to talk, to listen. Go into your room, close the door, and simply be there. No rehearsed words, no formulas, just you and him. If this content resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us about your prayer journey. Subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. Because in the end, the true power of faith isn't in moving mountains of circumstances. It's in being moved by God. And when you allow him to transform you through prayer, your whole life becomes a living testimony to his power. Jesus didn't just teach about prayer, he lived prayer, and he calls us to the same. To a life where every breath is a conversation with the Father, where every challenge is an opportunity to cry out, where every victory is a reason for gratitude. May this not be just another video. May it be the beginning of a real transformation. Because when you touch God's heart through sincere, humble, and persistent prayer, you are never the same again. The prayer that changes destinies begins now, with you, in the secret place, where no one sees, but where God is waiting to meet you, hear you, and transform you. As it is written in Jeremiah 29:13, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." That is the invitation. That is the secret, and that is the promise that Jesus left for us. May your life become a living prayer, a constant cry, a bridge between heaven and earth.